Over the last year, I've been really fortunate to be able to be in contact with some of the greatest amplifiers that were ever made, the Dumble amplifiers. Now, not only have we gotten this great opportunity to check out Dumbles, but I recently got access to some multi-tracks of various songs that were said to have used a Dumble steel string singer. So I thought it would be a really cool opportunity to take some of our Dumble steel string singer emulating pedals and compare them to these 3 different multi-tracks that I got. And what I want to attempt to do is pull the guitar out of those multi-tracks and see if we can transplant some of our guitar parts using my friend Tim Marco and use our pedals in order to recreate that Dumble steel string singer sound. So I'll be using the Steel String Slight Return Edition Mark II Mini. I'll be using that going into a Bandmaster to show how this pedal can transform a clean amp to get a little bit closer to that Dumble sound. And I'll alternatively be using the Steel String Supreme Slight Return Edition and be running that into a 2-Notes Cab M with a simulated cabinet, speaker, and mic as a comparison point to how it might sound when you're using it in an ampless setup and you're using the Steel String Supreme as the amplifier to drive a simulated cabinet, and see how close that we can get to these original tracks. So let's start first with going with Stevie Ray Vaughan's song Testify. Tim's gonna have a Strat here, tuned down to E flat, and let's bring up this Logic session and let's see what we can come up with. Let's see how close we can get. So Tim, we're gonna start first with the Steel String Slight Return Edition, the Mini Mark II, our most updated version of the Mark II. And we've got Testify. Let's just listen to the ISO guitar here first. Here, let's go. So let's see, just going again with the Slight Return Mini. And we got a little reverb coming in because he had a lot of reverb coming in. Our Bandmaster doesn't have reverb, so we're going to use a little bit of reverb from our friend, the Polaris. So here we go. It almost feels like the tone might be rolled off slightly on the guitar too. Like, doesn't it feel like a little less like bitey?
That was good. What was that?
I just turned on the Vertex boost.
Should we do a take with that?
Yeah, let's give it a try.
Just need more gain. Maybe I was rolled off a little bit too much.
Let's give this one a try one more time, okay, Tim? Sure. All right, here we go. I think a lot of this too, like if I could be so bold as to say differences, I think a lot of it does still have to do with what's not directly mic'd, right? Because like what we have mic'd here is a close mic 57 against the whatever room involvement they decided to use at that particular time. Because I feel like it's a distance thing. I don't think it's a tone thing at this point.
It's also like a more complicated sound, right? Like it's probably a couple different types of mics put together,
and whatever studio treatment, like we have no plugins going with this. There's no API SSL, there's no mic pre's that we're using on this. It's just straight what's coming off into the Apollo. Well, I like what we have going here. I'm wondering if we transfer and try to recreate that same thing and go to the cabs, the cab sim and the Steel String Supreme. Like, are we going to be able to get as close as we just got with the amp? All right, so Tim, we're going to move over to the Steel String Supreme now. We got a splitter here so that this can get the same signal that you're getting from your guitar. I set it to rock. I'm probably going to put it to bright here because we have that extra control. I'm going to leave all the other controls for clean, fat, and output just dead center. And let's just see how close we can get to what we just did. So steel string side is identical to what we have set on the Mark II version, the mini version. And then everything else is set in the middle, except we're on the bright switch. We emulated the rock switch, so we're all evened up there. So let's give it a try. You ready, Tim?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, let's have a listen to what we got here. Here's Stevie. I almost feel like that one sounds closer to me. It kind of did sound closer. That's Steel String Supreme slight return into the 2 notes cab amp. That's in my rack. We'll get a shot of that so people can see our settings, but it's just set to a 212 Dumble cabinet impulse response. No, and just whatever their standard mic complement is. I think it's like a 57 and a Royer, but maybe that was the missing piece, right? We don't have a Royer to go with the standard amp and cab. We have a little bit more air there for sure. I think. I feel like it feels like there's a thinness in the right way that matches up what Stevie does, I feel like. So you heard Testify, and I thought we got pretty dang close there overall, but I want to now move to the Eric Johnson song S.R.V. And I've brought with me a deluxe memory man to try to get that delay sound a little bit closer to what Eric Johnson might use. And we're going to be using my Boss Dimension C DC2W, the Dimension C chorus reissue, because I feel like we can get pretty close with that and maybe don't need to go all the way in using the original, let's say, Eric Johnson stereo chorus pedal that he may have been known to use or is still known to use to this day. So we're going to try to recreate that exact same setup, exact same scenario, still using the Steel String Supreme Slight Return Edition into the 2 notes cab M, still using the Steel String Slight Return Edition Mark II Mini into the front of the Bandmaster. And I also have the Vertex Boost just to give it a little bit more lift, to hit the amp a little bit harder, just to get a little bit more breakup from the amp naturally. Again, this is a pretty clean amp, so it won't break up that easily on its own. And let's see what we got. So here's our reference, just so we have it, so we know what S.R.V. is supposed to sound like from Eric Johnson. Here's just the opening clip of it. Here we go. All right, so that's all we're going to get. But I feel like we were actually, I think we're probably already going to be slightly in the ballpark. Just kind of a lot of these settings for Eric Johnson are kind of known a little bit. And I know it says Hot Rod DeVille here, but we actually are using the Bandmaster for this guy. So I'll make sure that's altered in our postscript or any of our description stuff. So let's try it. You ready, Tim?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. That's pretty dang close for right off the bat first try.
Sounds good.
I kind of think that's pretty dang good. Any feedback from the peanut gallery as far as what we think might want to alter on this?
I think maybe some like lower mids if we could. I don't know where the filter is on the steel string.
Let me try to, I'll bring it down just a little bit. I'll bring down the filter just a little bit. Let's give it another pass. I've turned down the filter from like 230 to like 130. Let's see what that does. We ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. I think that's pretty dang close. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of tempted not to mess with perfection there. We're gonna try to do the same thing. Obviously, same signal path, but we're gonna be using the Steel String Supreme slight return as the amp, going into the same cab M from 2 notes, same exact cabinet as we used before, same exact microphone complement. I'm just gonna match my settings here. You ready to do another take, Tim, with the Steel String Supreme? Again, no amp here. This is fully coming from the Steel String Supreme slight return, and then it's going into the cab M. Obviously, we still have the benefits, because we're using the splitter, of using the delay and the reverb here. So we'll still have the same delay and reverb as we did on everything else, and the chorus is the same as everything else. That sounded pretty good as a first take. Let's listen back and see what we got. Here we go. That one was pretty. That one almost might even be a little better. Just for the purposes of listening to the difference between Steel String Supreme into the amp versus, Steel String Supreme into the cab M versus Steel String Slight Return Mark II into the real amp. Here's the real amp. Okay, so we get a reference. And here's the cab M with the Steel String Supreme. So you heard Eric Johnson's S.R.V. I think we got really close here, potentially even closer than we did on the Stevie Ray Vaughan example. This brings us to our very last song of the day, which is the John Mayer song, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. And I'm excited to see what happens. Let's open up Logic and let's get going. We've got John Mayer, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. We've got tracks. It says Hot Rod DeVille. It is, in fact, a bandmaster. We have reverb and delay panned hard to each side, and it's actually just the reverb that's panned hard. The delay is in front and is occurring by way of the DM2. And I think we're simulating a little bit of room sound in the left and right with the Carbon Copy Deluxe, with just kind of a high mix but a super low repeat and super fast delay, just to kind of create that space. Underneath, got a little bit of the Polaire reverb set to a spring reverb. And we got Vertex boost on just to add a little bit more output. And then we got on, of course, the Steel String Slight Return Edition Mark II. Gain is straight up. We're in the rock position. Filter straight up. And we got the volume right around 8 in terms of the level control. So do we want to try a pass on this guy?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Not bad.
It sounded really close. I mean, it might just be like rolling the tone off just a little bit more on the guitar.
Okay.
Could be something.
Okay.
Other than that, what do you think? You hearing anything?
I think that maybe there's a little bit more mid to what's going on with his thing. Maybe. I'm just going to bring up the gain just the slightest bit, just to kind of add a little bit more. Maybe just a tiny bit of the filter. Let's
We're super close though.
I think we are very close. Let's do another pass here. Let's have the 2 notes cab M being driven by the Steel String Supreme Slight Return. And we've had pretty good luck kind of leaving the 3 Supreme side just straight up. So we're going to leave that. Everything else is going to be the same about the wet signal path, so no change there. Let's you want to just do a run and just see where we are? All right, here we go. Not bad at all. Anything you're hearing kind of different there that you think we can compensate for?
I'm not really hearing much. Are you hearing anything?
It maybe sounds slightly more compressed to me for this version of the Supreme Edition versus the amp. Let's just do one more take just to make sure that we're not accounting for just playing difference. Let's just do one more take, Tim. Sure. Indulge me, please. All right, here we go. All right, that was sounding pretty dang close. All right, let's see what we got. Here we go. Here's you. It's pretty dang close. Do you feel like the last one was closer or this one was closer?
Well, I think I'm doing more vibrato-y stuff on this one, so it's nice sounding. More like the record. I kind of like the compression on the big boy steel string.
Yeah, it's funny. I would say that in some ways, in terms of like a sitting in the mix, this might actually sound a little closer than the pedal and amps. But again, the Cab M has all these room and sort of professional audio treatments that are kind of baked into it in a way. And so I wonder if that's part of the thing that we're hearing is like a more polished like record sound because of that. That kind of lines up a little bit better with slow dancing, like as we hear it on an album. I think this is really impressive. I think we're really, really close here. Tim, great job.
Thanks, man.
I think we can cut here. What we were able to do is take the Steel String Supreme Slight Return or the Steel String Slight Return Edition Mini, the Mark II, and get really close to three very iconic sounds that used this particular type of Dumble amplifier. Now, I think that this gives you a lot of options as a player, because if you have a tube amp and you want to get that a little bit closer to that quintessential Dumble sound, I think we proved that we can get pretty dang close to that using the Steel String Mark II Slight Return Edition. And we'll link some vendors that carry that if you're interested in checking it out. That's pretty much available worldwide. Secondly, if you're a person that doesn't typically use real amps on stage, but wants that sort of Dumble-style steel string singer goodness that you might have heard from some of the players that we showcased music from today, you could go for the Steel String Supreme, and the slight return version that is, and you could go into some sort of cabinet simulation. Now, you could also use the Steel String Supreme in front of an amplifier and give yourself just even more flexibility, because this can go into either. It doesn't just need to be used into a cab simulator, but we wanted to show you so that you knew both ways that it could be used. The steel string channel on both of these pedals is identical. It's not any different depending on which one you get. They're the same thing. You just have a few more options with the Steel String Supreme, plus the ability to be able to run it again into a cab simulation. So that was our comparison today. If you're interested in checking these pedals out, again, they will be listed in the description from vendors that carry these products. And if you want to support us, a good way to do that, free way to do that, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, tell us what some of your favorite parts were that Tim played today. He did an excellent job of learning those songs and capturing those tones. And if you want a free way to engage with us, you can check us out over on the Chairman of the Boards podcast. That's on Apple, Spotify, all the places that you find podcasts. That's a great way to have a long-form version of a lot of things that we do right here on the channel, where I'm discussing rig builds, pedals, and all that good stuff with Brian O'Million of A Million Audio and Grant Klassen of Goodwood Audio. And until next time, I am Mason Marangella from Vertex Effects, also known as the Rig Doctor, and we'll see you next time.